Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Two men in black and white, an honest conversation. I'm joined by Brock Ganeles, just outside New York City in the lovely Hudson River Valley. Brock, good evening. Let's get right into it. Cash Patel, what an idiot. I mean, he has absolutely no business in this position. Jim Jordan was trying to bump for him, wasn't going to work. Jasmine Crockett called him out as the most ill-qualified FBI director in the history of the office. It makes no sense that he's there. I don't know how Americans can actually feel safe with this moron. I feel so bad for the women in the Epstein case who had the courage to come and speak out, and this guy dodged and evaded every single question about the Epstein files. I mean, what's his purpose besides protecting Trump? It's ridiculous.
I mean, you took my answer. You know, they all know the assignment when they took the job, right?
Right.
And so that's why we got such unqualified people, because anyone of any kind of conviction or moral fiber was not going to go step into that role and wear that badge, and lead that, 10,000 people.
Right.
And basically lie to the American public about what they know.
This guy is purging the most qualified individuals, the best people we have, right? Meanwhile, he has no idea how to run an investigation. We saw that with the Charlie Kirk shooting. But he said it was going to take 14 years to get properly staffed. Does it take 14 years to find enough Trumpers to get,
I didn't even hear that part of it.
My
but
God,
Mark,
just ridiculous.
Look, most, these people aren't in their job. The administration, each of them are not in their job to create the best version of America, right? They're in the job to create the best version of America for Donald Trump.
Right.
And that's the sad reality. I don't know why they want to do it. I don't understand the need for power or prominence to such a way to denigrate like your entire, your life, your legacy, and who you are as a person. So either they're absolute lockstep believers with Trump, or they're just the biggest opportunists in the world. But it doesn't matter to the rest of us.
No.
Yes, we're less safe, right? We had Patel embarrassing us on a law enforcement front, right? We know what Pam Bondi does every day. Her job is to just be Trump's attack dog, right?
Right.
You had the CDC, the ex-CDC head, who RFK hired and fired, telling us, that she just wouldn't roll over and pre-accept unscientific decisions in advance. And that's why she got fired. And that basically telling us that as a nation, we're less safe from a healthcare point of view. So law enforcement, healthcare, these are big categories, right? But we know we have terrible people in these jobs. They're not here to make America better. They're here to reinforce the corrupt world of Donald Trump and either tamp down dissent and or line his pockets. But we're allowing this to happen as the American people. And I just have to keep going. Why? Laziness, complacency, selfishness, racism. Is it all of the above, combined, leading to just a country of people that are just sitting back and watching, this nation they love to brag about. Like we loved to wave the finger and call ourselves the greatest nation in the world and all that other horse shit we told ourselves. But no one's doing anything about the fact that it's being torn down.
No, because people are too busy blowing their horn in traffic and worrying about, filling up their SUV and being soccer moms and dads and running to football games on the weekend and trying to make more money. We're preoccupied in our own little silos, and we refuse to come out. Most people feel like, well, there's nothing I can do, so I might as well continue doing what I'm doing, which is for me. right? It's like Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins from the movie with Martin Lawrence. The team of me, self-absorbed Americans, entitled Americans. And I don't think we're going to wake up until it's too late, because now, you got Menarez telling senators that Kennedy said, Kennedy told us that she told him that she was untrustworthy. Who says that? Who goes to their boss and says, you probably can't trust me? And Kennedy says, well, since I can't trust you, why don't you resign? You think that's what happened? Come on, I got a bridge I need to sell you. Get out of here. But, they wanted her to approve every recommendation on the vaccine and, this advisory panel, right? And it's all BS, right? They wanted her to say, take the science and twist it around so it'll say what we want it to say. Absolutely not. And she was their pick, right? Most of the Democrats didn't want her.
Yeah, voted against her.
Yeah.
They voted against her.
We had, who was apologizing to? We had one of the Democratic lawmakers apologizing to her
Yeah,
today.
because you've had Tim Kaine, I think it was, a senator, yeah.
Yes. And, look, he's a bigger man for it, right? Because like he said, I worried about your backbone. I worried about you rolling over, and I was wrong. And here she is letting us know that these children, we got a measles outbreak right here in Fulton County. Fulton County is the county that surrounds Atlanta.
But the parents of the kids who have measles, right, feel like they're making America great again?
They can't.
Does the racism overwhelm every other aspect of a person's life? They're willing to have less economic security. They're willing to be less wealthy. They're willing to pay more for everything. They're willing to pay a hell of a lot more for healthcare, or have to take a worse plan and therefore have just, be less healthy in the aggregate. They're okay if the country is less safe, right? They're okay if we don't have emergency services. They're okay that we don't even know when there's going to be a fucking, deadly storm coming anymore because we stopped tracking it. All these aspects, the schools are worse because they're getting, maybe their kids aren't even getting free lunches anymore because that program got scrapped. So all these elements that are making people's lives worse are okay because they're just happy with the social order. The social order is in a way where they feel like they're higher up on the pecking order, and that's the way we need to keep it. We need to sweep all these brown people into disgraceful facilities.
Right.
But you know what? I'm looking at a whiter America, and even if it's a whiter America, I'm looking at from my fucking hospital bed, or my fucking can't afford a hospital bed, or the hospital's closed, right? From my deathbed on my porch.
Yep.
I still feel better about it because
I'm racist.
It's a whiter America.
Yeah.
Have we gotten to the point where that's just such a big driver that it's overwhelming everything else? Women don't care about their reproductive rights because as long as white women, as long as they feel like they're higher up on the totem pole, that's fine, even when they're being treated like shit. So nothing... nothing else matters because you figure, because if it did by now,
you would think
almost everyone's been affected. Not everyone, but almost everyone has been affected.
Yeah, but hey, if you're eating food, you've been affected, right? If you're eating food that you bought from a grocery store, you've been affected because everything is higher, bro. Now we're sitting on pins and needles waiting to see what the Fed's gonna do. While, Trump is running to the Supreme Court so he can fire the black woman on the Fed, right? We have a black Fed chair here in Atlanta at the Atlanta Federal Reserve, Raphael Bostic, right? What's he gonna come after him next? What are you gonna do? Just get rid of all the black folks on the Fed panel because you think they're the problem?
Probably. They're probably trying to figure out a way to go after him on some sort of, like, they tried to drum up some mortgage fraud charge, right, on
Right.
the woman in the Fed.
Right. Right.
They're going after Letitia James. So yeah, if you're a black woman, particularly, you got a target right on your back.
No doubt.
But isn't America? Aren't people even bothered by the fact? I mean, there's a whole bunch of yahoos, right, that stay up and watch late night TV shows, right? So now Colbert has been fired,
Right.
and now Jimmy Kimmel's been suspended indefinitely. Okay, Fallon's the only one left. So like, but
Right.
that's not bothering people. They're not bothered. They probably watch these shows every night, but it doesn't bother them to be in a country where the comedians can't tell jokes anymore.
Right.
Like,
Right. You can't tell a joke anymore.
yeah,
How long do you think we're gonna last, bro? I mean, are they gonna come after us?
we just need, if we had more views, they'd be coming after us.
They probably.
Mark, we got suspended from TikTok.
I know. That's
We
what
were
I'm saying.
suspended from TikTok. So somewhere in the algorithm, somewhere in there, that formerly or soon to be formerly Chinese company didn't like our content. And I guarantee we'd get swept off TikTok now that it's going to be run by a bunch of white supremacists out of Silicon Valley.
Right.
Like Peter Thiel's friends are now taking over TikTok. So what we need to understand is all these platforms are being owned by either right-wing business owners, oligarchs, or complicit, afraid pussies, basically, like Iger at fucking ABC. And people need to realize you got to starve these beasts. You can't keep giving them your eyeballs. You can't keep going to Disney World. Because you go to Disney World, you're condoning the fact that Bob Iger took Jimmy Kimmel off the air for telling jokes about Trump. And if that's the America that you think's a great America, if you think that's, a make America great, you think that's American exceptionalism, a country where you can't tell jokes anymore.
Jokes. How fucked up is that? And now they're gonna go after you. We heard Trump yesterday telling Jonathan Karl at ABC, "We'll go after people like you." And then Jimmy Kimmel is suspended indefinitely or whatever, for talking about Trump and Charlie Kirk and these right wing morons. And then you got Pam Bondi, who's talking about we're going to investigate hate speech, but hate speech only applies one way. If you're talking about them. So we are in total authoritarian mode right now. We are being run by a king. We don't have a democracy anymore. It's gone. It's fucking gone. And now you can't tell jokes. What the fucking fuck?
No, and organizations like the NFL fall in line and they have moments of silence for Charlie Kirk, right? And the players all roll along. I'm just, okay, so who's going to stand up for Jimmy Kimmel, right? Like, who's going to say something? Like, no, not enough people are willing to stand up and say something and put their, honor and their convictions. And you think, I'm not like a love of country, wave the flag, go to Memorial Day parades, eat fucking hot dogs on the July 4th, go watch the fireworks person.
Right.
We've talked about this. Right. Yeah, I root for America in the Olympics, right? I root for our teams.
Right.
Right? I'm a sports fan American, right? But I'm not pretending like we had some exceptionalism that we didn't have. We know we're the best country in the world, but yet still flawed.
Right.
But now, how can we look at this version of America and be proud of it? I'm embarrassed of this version of America.
No doubt. No doubt. We should be embarrassed. Do you see the protests that are going on in the UK because of Trump's state visit? He looks like an absolute fool sitting next to a prince. Why would the royal family entertain this guy? Knowing the truth. Right? Because they know the truth. They know what this man has done and said and how he's acted.
Because
Europe, intelligence organizations too.
Because you're trying to at least not anger the lunatic king, because they don't want America to walk away from NATO's Article 5 and not be there to support against Russian aggression. That's one reason why all the European leaders still try to keep some level of relationship with Trump. We're the military power of the world. And they got Russia fucking picking away and flying drones everywhere and, of course, trying to take over Ukraine. And they also don't want, no one wants their economy to be tanked. So they just try to stay in a good enough relationship, and they do asinine shit for Trump, like golden carriage rides to make the little 5-year-old feel good at the fucking, at the local carnival. Like, it's embarrassing. Everyone knows it's embarrassing except Trump. Even Melania looked like she was embarrassed wearing that hat that looked like a fucking umbrella, so you couldn't even tell that she was fucking there. I mean, she's obviously getting paid to show up to this shit.
Oh, yeah. She
At this point, right? She's just getting a paycheck as well. But I think that's why they do it. I think that's why European leaders at least play the lip service, and it is the job of the king to play the honorary role. So he's stuck with entertaining Trump for 48 hours, and I'm sure he'll be the happiest motherfucker in the UK when Trump gets back on Air Force One to fly out of there, because he'll have checked the box and done his job.
Right. And, if they work out a trade agreement, what the hell? Fine. I mean, look, these farmers aren't getting any business from the UK. I know that much, right? Because China said, go to hell. We'll buy soybeans from someplace else. These guys are still sitting out there, still screwed over and still crying. But this is what you voted for, right? The economy that was the envy of the globe was not good enough for you, right? You had to have your racism. Right? I mean, Brock, look how far we've fallen in less than a year. It took him less than a year to tank the economy. And oh, by the way, the big beautiful bill is coming. It's coming the first of the year. We haven't seen shit yet. Wait till that thing hits people over the head.
Well, the Fed tightrope things today is right. They cut by 25 basis points. They're worried about inflation. Of course they're worried about inflation because of the tariffs. The tariffs are just flat out inflationary.
Insane.
So it's coming and it's only going to increase. So they're seeing so many negative warning signs in the economy that they feel they need to cut rates because they're seeing the employment creeping up. And also, apparently, they're seeing housing is just totally frozen. Permits were down like 20%. So, there's no building going on and no one's moving. So, it's kind of like a stalemate. It's like everyone in America is stuck where they are.
Yep.
Right? Everyone's stuck and just trying to hang in there. But most Americans are not hanging in there. Credit scores are going down across the board, the worst since the Great Recession.
Yeah.
The typical American is feeling much worse.
Right.
The question is the typical American motivated enough to do something about it? Or do a lot of those typical Americans who are getting screwed right now okay with the fact, with the direction of America and taking some pain themselves because they're happy that brown people are being rounded up?
The inhumanity of the immigration policy is insane. I mean, there's an Associated Press article today that talked about veterans, people with no sort of criminal background being rounded up and shipped out of here, right? And now you know what's going to happen, Brock? Immigrants without medical insurance are going to be blown up and sent out of here because they don't want indigent care going into our hospitals and running up the cost that can't be recouped from uninsured individuals with no health care.
The problem is the trade-off, right? Even if you didn't care about the humanitarian aspect of it, the trade-off in the hit to the economy is still going to make things worse because they're doing the jobs that we need. You wonder why food prices are going up, right? The labor has gone down, right? And they spend their money, right? Because all people in the lower income stratas all spend their money. They don't save it. They have to survive. It's only the wealthy that have the luxury of savings that take money out of circulation. So giving a tax cut to the wealthiest doesn't help an economy because it just beefs up a handful of people's bank accounts.
What they used to say, the trickle down, that never trickled down.
It was bullshit. It was always bullshit. That was Reagan's big lie.
Yeah.
That was Reagan's big lie, and the Republicans held on to it till now. They don't even pitch it anymore, though. They don't even argue that it's going to help the economy. They just do it, right? Trump just pushes it through as a part of, the Project 2025 racism agenda. It's like, hey, rich people get to be richer. And hey, the rest of you poor white people, we're going to give you a ton of racism, even though your economic situation is going to get worse. You're going to get to be racist. We're allowing racism. Go ahead. Be openly racist. Be proudly racist. We're giving that to you. You get that instead of money. You don't get a job. Your farm's going bankrupt, but we're giving you that. Go ahead. Go be the asshole you always wanted to be.
Yep.
And that's what we're playing towards.
And the funny part, I heard a theory yesterday evening as I was, floating through the YouTube abyss, where one of these podcasters thought that the plan from these, dastardly Republicans was to blow up all the immigrants, get them out of here, and then black people would take those jobs. And we'd get black people on the farms, on the roofs, out there laying gravel, out there laying sod, out there doing all the jobs, right? The black jobs. Remember the black jobs? Those were going to become the black jobs. And it kind of made sense to me. But, look, black women are the most educated segment of society.
Yeah, we're going to push you down the economic rung, but you fill those jobs, right? Sorry about the progress you think you made and the education you think you got. We don't care, you're going to take a minimum wage job. And by the way, minimum wage isn't budging.
Exactly.
Right? You're going to have to work 3-4 jobs just to fucking scrape by because your rent's going up and all your costs are going up. So you're just going to have to work more jobs. None of it adds up. It doesn't play. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for an economy. We're seeing it in the numbers. You can fire all the statisticians you want and rig the numbers all you want. It's happening out there in the world. And the question just keeps coming back to, are the American people motivated enough to fight back? Or are we just going to say it's not that bad, it's not that bad? All right, so you'll say Colbert, Kimmel, you know what?
We're a selfish nation, right? I mean, the absurd amounts of money that people are making make other people want to make absurd amount of money, right? When we hear about what LeBron makes, when we hear about what Ohtani makes, when we hear about what Steph Curry makes and Patrick Mahomes making $250 million from the Chiefs, right? It makes us want absurd wealth too. And so we get on this hamster wheel trying to figure out, how we can get to 6 figures, how we can get to $150, how we can get to 200, right? Everybody's looking for the next come up. And that is superseding the will to want to save our democracy. I wholeheartedly believe that. When you drive past these youth soccer fields and youth football fields and you see all these parents out there, gathered around the fishbowl, I mean, that's what's going on. They all think they got the next, Marcus Dupree or whoever in the backfield. Everybody's kids going to the pros. Right? Everybody's kid getting $1 million in NIL money. It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Yeah, that's a narrow
percent that make it to the pros. It's
a narrow path, and that's why no one will ever say anything to step out of line either, right? Because they're too busy just chasing the dollars. But yeah, I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that we don't hear more voices. Everyone's so protective of their bank account.
Yeah.
that there's so few people willing to say something controversial and blaming it on us being a divided nation. But no, no one's an activist anymore. There's no fucking activists. No one will say shit,
Doesn't pay
because they're
well.
worried it's going to alienate some group of their potential consumers, or in some way they feel it's going to impact, I don't know, their lives, or they're afraid. I mean, I guess it's better to be like us and not have too much, right? We certainly have plenty, right? We're living comfortable lives, but not have to worry we have so much to protect that we're not fucking willing to like just speak honestly about what's going on in the country. Because it seems like anyone who has too much is just worried about saying anything.
Right.
Although I'll hand it to Colbert and Kimmel, right? They didn't stop, firing their shots. Cost them their current jobs, but you know what? Fuck it. It's not the only, it's not the only fucking job there's out there in the
Hey,
world, right? For
hey,
talented people. Go make movies. Go do fucking independent shows. Exactly.
go get on your phone and do a fucking podcast.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, and we're just gonna have to find more and more platforms because, hey, look, who knows? YouTube could ban us tomorrow. Then we'd have to go on the next one, right? Spotify, and you just have to keep finding, a place where you can get shown. I mean, there is a scariness when the communications airwaves are controlled by so few people,
Right.
because then you do lose that megaphone. But we're not there yet.
Wasn't there a
But
James
that's
Bond
why they're
movie?
talking about taking down Blue Sky, right? Because it's such a a
Liberal.
left wing friendly platform.
Yep. Yep. And I love it. And we need to be heard somewhere, right? And locking up and arresting your political opponents. I mean, I can't believe that we let a D minus student, with a jackass for an FBI director and a clown car cabinet, ruin this country. When the history on this portion of the American experiment is written, it's going to be ugly for these fuckers. Because people are going to read it and say, "What the fuck? What was the rest? What were the other, 300 million people do?" I can't believe it's more than 10%, Brock. Can't believe it's more than 10 to 15% of the population that's buying into this bullshit.
You
Right?
hope
Because
that
the second you don't believe what Trump says and do what Trump says, he's on you. You hear Thomas Massey today? Thomas Massey rolled out a list of who's on that in the Epstein files. There was a rock star, there was a high profile banker, there was a former high ranking elected official. Oh, he had about 12 of people whose names we would know just by the way he characterized their positions. We would know these names. And that list is not coming. And Cash Patel would not say if Trump's name was on that list. And we know it is. We know it's in there thousands of times because they used thousands of FBI agents to scrub it of his name.
well, Patel said that there were no names on it, right? That there was no one had been trafficked outside of Epstein
Isn't that
and
perjury?
Maxwell, which is such an obvious lie. It's embarrassing.
Isn't it perjury when you sit on Capitol Hill in the oversight committee and you lie? I think that's a crime.
I
But who's
thought
going to
so.
prosecute it?
No one's going to prosecute it. But back to what you said earlier, history is written by the winners. So if the MAGA movement wins, this period will be known as the Great Awakening or the Great whatever of America, when the Great Whitening of America, and the stories will be told of how this, disastrous country was saved by Donald Trump and all these terrible, dirty vermin that had come in to ruin America were rooted out and America was purified. That's how the story will be written if Project 2025 MAGA wins this battle.
Right.
If the left actually comes back, fights the fight, and restores America to some semblance of what it was, then the history books will be able to write about this period as a tragic time in American history.
Right.
As when we lost our way but then found it again. But if we don't find it again, it ain't going to be written that way.
No.
Like we're just gonna be swept up in fucking history, and me and you are just gonna get knocks on the door one day, and four fucking armed guys in fucking masks are just gonna walk into the house, and we're gonna disappear, and no one's ever gonna hear from us again and know where we went. Right?
Right.
We'll be like Russia would be in a gulag in Russia,
Right.
and
I mean, what's
die of
the
natural.
hello, like Navalny, right? We still can't find our Navalny. It's incredible. All right, quick hits. What do you got for me?
Okay, quick hits. In order to get my mind, white guy stuff over in the white guy ledger, in order to get my mind off of how angry I am, I did start to watch the Billy Joel documentary.
Oh, really? What's that on?
Yeah,
What platform?
that's on HBO Plus maybe, or
Okay.
whatever, Paramount or HBO Plus.
Okay.
It's 5 hours,
Okay.
2 episodes, 2.5 hour each. We watched episode 1 last night.
Okay.
Fantastic, right? Because the
Really?
music, us white guys, like I had the Stranger album, and when I was like 13 or 14, like in this late 70s when he boomed, so I knew all the
Right.
songs. But it's a good story. Very loyal guy to his band. A little bit fucked up, drank a little much, but we're only halfway through it. But a good white guy show. I love my music documentaries, and
Yeah.
I'm equal opportunity. I watch them all. I go from Shania Twain to Diana Ross to
Okay.
Summer. What was that one Questlove did? Love that one.
Oh, yeah.
That Summer of
Yeah.
whatever, the Harlem one. Yeah, I'm all over the board on it. Billy Joel's a good one.
There's
It's
a
long.
good
You
one.
got to invest 5 hours though.
I'll check it out. There's a good one on Lil Baby. Gives you a really good picture of the Atlanta hip hop scene. It's on Amazon Prime, or I think it's Prime. I don't know, Amazon. But Lil Baby is a really big rap artist here. And then it helps you kind of understand. See, if you want to know what's going on in the black community, go to a church or listen to the hip hop. And you get a good idea of what's going on in the city of Atlanta and what life is like in urban America by listening to the hip hop. And Lil Baby's story is pretty unique. It's like 90 minutes, but it gives you a good look at the black side of things on that side of the tracks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go on to a Bezos property to watch it. So, and I like that it's only 90 minutes. I like that it's only 90 minutes. I like when they knock them out a little quicker.
Right.
I appreciate a good editing. Like our show, we always run longer than we're going to. So I understand how it happens. So I guess my final question to you before I hop is then, like, what are black hip hop artists writing and singing about right now?
They're singing about the police. They're singing about making money, singing about women, singing about the difficulty of being a black man. But I still think we need to be more political. After the George Floyd incident, you saw a little bit of a shift, but it has gone back to the focus on materialistic things, debauchery. It's not what it used to be.
I thought Kendrick's Super Bowl performance was going to be a catalyst towards a more politically minded
Yes.
music environment,
Yes.
and I don't feel like it's happened. Like Neil Young wrote a protest song about Trump. Eminem wrote one. Neither of them really caught big traction, but there haven't been that much like they did in the 70s, right? They were writing protest songs, and those songs were hits, and that's what people were listening to. Chuck D, and when we
Yeah. Chuck D, Talib Kweli. You know where they are? They're touring in Europe. They're on the European tour. Arrested Development touring in Europe. Talib Kweli making tons of money in Europe. And people say, "Oh, what have you been doing?" He's like, "What have you been doing? I've been on tour." They love American rap music in Europe.
So I
And
don't know Bad Bunny. I couldn't name you a song he plays, but I know he's huge, and he just did a big residency in Puerto Rico, and he refused to do his tour in the U.S. because he was worried about ICE agents showing up at all his shows. So he went down, and I think he did like 30 days in Puerto Rico
million.
and just killed it, and it brought a ton of money to the island because it was Taylor Swift-like, right, where people were just going down there. So I think what he did was fantastic for for the economy and for like his people and for not giving ICE an opportunity to, to cherry pick his concerts because it would have, there's no doubt they would have been there, right?
It would have been disastrous. It would have been disastrous. And, I don't, I'm not a big follower of his music, but because I heard that story yesterday, I made a promise to myself that I would go and become a fan.
And listen to some of his music because I don't know what he
Yeah.
sings about. I don't know if anything he
Right.
sings is controversial or political. There are some kind of rap groups in the UK and in Europe that went to like the Glastonbury Festival and like there was some there was some pro-Palestine stuff
Right.
and anti-Trump stuff. So there's some controversial music
Yes.
being done. It's just it's not being done in the US right now.
Right. Right. And, and that's what we need. I think I've told you this before. I don't think, Black America starts to really hear things until the music changes. And now I'm my dad, right? I'm my father's son saying, man, hip hop ain't what it used to be. Like my father used to say, what is this hippity hop stuff you listening to? It ain't what it used to be. So it's hard. It's hard being black right now because, the black male is always under suspicion, it feels like. And that comes from a conversation I just had last week, where we just felt like, man, I'm tired. I'm tired of fight. We've been fighting for like college was the last time we didn't have to fight. Right? Soon as we stepped into the
Yeah.
adult world,
The corporate world, man, you walk into a white world.
and we couldn't get back to why do you think so many black folks go back to homecoming? Right? It's like being on safe ground. Brock went at Howard's homecoming. We could talk more about this tomorrow, but Howard's homecoming is like, oh my God, I can remember when I felt safe here. I can remember when I just fell out of my dorm onto the yard and everybody was loving everybody.
I wonder if the students feel safe right now with all the fucking National Guardsmen and the police presence that's going around. They can't.
Exactly.
They
You
can't.
can't.
How can you? How can you? Why would a young black kid feel safe around a bunch of fucking 3%er white guys with AK-47s and masks on, patrolling their fucking campus? There's no way they can feel comfortable.
And the university is sending out warning emails. Keep your ID with you. Make sure you have
Yeah.
this. Walk together in groups, right? Look out for each other.
Yeah, they want to keep
Try
everyone
not to
safe.
be by yourself. That's not the college experience. That's not the American experience. Fuck. All right, Brody. Let's wrap it up.
Okay. All right, Mark. Always a pleasure. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Peace and
Peace.
love, my friend. See you tomorrow.